For this video, we'll be looking at whether or not Photoshop 2024 with the Generative Fill AI can fix blemishes on cover art, labels, maybe like stickers or certain markings that you don't want there. And we're going to see how easily it can remove those. So I've got some examples. I went through my library here and tried to find some examples of things that you'd try to get rid of. Rental stickers are a really common one for Japanese albums. Now in this case, an album like this, if I was looking to buy a cheap album from Japan, you can look at the rentals. This one's in pretty bad shape. But this particular sticker is in a great place because you've got a straight line, you've got a repeating pattern. This right here can be filled in pretty easily with just a clone stamp. Clone stamp could basically fix all of this, very simple. So this is kind of an easy fix outside of generative fill. You don't have to use AI to fix this. But we'll look at it and see how it goes. Another one here, this is a soundtrack, or well, it's an Xbox 360 game that came with a soundtrack. So, if you wanted to rip this soundtrack, but you needed some cover art. There's a lot of stuff going on here. In particular, they got this really big label. It's not even a sticker, it's just printed on there. Now for this, got pretty lucky in that the instruction manual didn't have that big label there, but it does have like the teen, the rating thing. Probably don't want that on your music soundtrack cover art. And it's got Activision down here at the bottom. So we'll see if we can get rid of these elements and just clean this up and have just a nice picture of war there. The next one here is another game. This one's got PlayStation here, Konami there, and then down in the bottom underneath the obi there is some words that are covering up the guy's foot. We'll see if we can get rid of that. Here's another game that has labels. It has the ESRB, the ratings label here. And so the reason I went with the games here, because these are things that probably you might run into commonly with these games. But the problem is that they're not stickers. You can't just remove them. In the case of something like this, traditionally what I've done is I've used some Goo Gone and some like Q-tips and the little spudgers for like cell phone repair, and you can get these off pretty easily. Usually the area underneath will be a little bit darker because of the liquid. The Goo Gone can stain it. Once you let it dry though, it's not significantly darker. When you're first working on it and removing the sticker, it's going to be really dark, but you let it dry for like a day and it's only a little bit dark, and you can go back and fix that in whatever photo editing software you use, and it'll look pretty good. It'll basically be invisible, and but it will physically leave a mark. The album in real life will always have some indicator that you had done something. So these next ones are like worst case scenarios. These are 7-inch vinyl records that were part of rental systems in some way. And so they've got these stickers on there that are in very unfortunate places. This one is over something that's got a pretty complicated texture here. And then also you've got she's wearing like some type of a sweater, like a wool sweater. And there's some shadows and color gradients and stuff like that. And so this is a difficult one to do, even if you were just doing it by yourself, if you were trying to clone stamp and kind of feather in the design to make it look good. This one, so here, this is one where I remove the rental sticker. It's got a little bit of residue there, but that is super easy to clean up with Clone Stamp because it's just a solid color. Here there was a label that was covering up these lines. This is not too bad. You could just basically draw the lines on the artwork yourself and it would look completely natural. And you can kind of see through the sticker to give yourself a guide, and you could tell where, you know, the curve, the arc of the line, how long it should go, and you could sample the color from this part of the line. So this you could do perfectly by yourself. But I'll still show what does the AI, what is it able to come up with. Here, this is a really worst case scenario because you can see here, you know, if you kind of can use your mind, you can tell that there's color, the shape continues, but the colors swap. So you've got a hard contrast swap between the design, you know, underneath the sticker. This black box extends up to some point up here. So you got to kind of figure out, okay, well, what is happening underneath this label? This part, this one I didn't expect the AI to be successful, and it was not successful when I tried it out, but it did get you in a direction. It did give me something that I could work with, and so that is helpful. Overall, everything, the AI that I tried on all these samples, it worked really well. I was very surprised. In some cases, it is 100%. It's perfect, totally believable, and you don't have to change anything. In some cases, it gets you maybe like 70 or 80% of the way, and you just have to make a little bit of changes yourself, and then it looks totally believable. I was pretty impressed. I don't normally use Photoshop, so I'll be kind of coming at this from the perspective of like a normie or a noob, and you know, just clicking a minimal amount of buttons and trying to get a really good outcome. And so I think that's kind of what a lot of people might be coming at this from is, can I use this really expensive and elaborate software to make my life easier? Compared to like Photoshop or Paint.net, yeah, it is really impressive what it can do, but you'll have to decide, is it worth spending, you know, $15 to $20 a month? Maybe you just save up some examples that you need to fix, and then you buy like 1 month's worth, and then you let it cancel after that, after you fix all your bad album covers that you need to deal with. Or maybe if you know somebody that has Photoshop, you just send them and say, hey, can you just run the generative AI fill on this and save me some money? So let's move on over to Photoshop and start working on these. The first one here, we'll look at the buggy game. What I would recommend here is that you descreen these first to clean up all of the halftones. And by the halftones, this is what I'm talking about. You don't want the AI to have to try to match these very detailed patterns. Just use the descreen plugin and get it like this. This will be far easier for it to match all the color gradients and, you know, textures and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so here we're looking at it, and we've got this printed stuff down here. We've got the PlayStation logo and then the Konami logo. First, we'll go with the printed text down here. So the goal here is that we've got his shoe or his foot covering back there, and we want to preserve that but get rid of all these words right here. All you do is you just start out, you do the selection tool. When I first started up Photoshop, this 2024 version with the generative AI, it had all kinds of introductions, like videos. It's like, you know, watch this video to see how it does it. And you can see, I mean, it really emphasizes this AI stuff. So it's very easy to use it. You select the area that you want to get rid of, and then this box will have generative fill, and you can type stuff in here. It did not seem to make any difference. I think if you're just wanting to replace the background, I don't think this part makes any difference. I think this makes more difference where you're wanting to add things. If you wanted to say, you know, add add an apple to the picture or something like that, that's what this generative thing is. But you don't have to say, you know, please remove the white words that are covering the foot and fill in the texture properly from the surrounding area. You don't got to do any of that. Click generate and it will run. I don't know if this is based on CPU or internet speed or what, but it does take a little while for me. Okay, now over here, it's going to give you the options, and it puts a fill layer right here that is the thing that it created. And you can go through here and select the variations that it gave you. You can also generate more if you'd like. So this, obviously, this looks terrible. That's not a good one. That looks pretty believable. You know, you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like over here. There's no toes, but you know, it is what it is. And then here's like a full foot. So that one maybe is a little short. That one's kind of maybe like too big. But you can also turn off by clicking the eye over here. You can turn it off and see what was behind there to begin with. In this case, you know, if you go with something like that, if you look really close, it's not great. But once you just have it by itself, or, you know, once you zoom out and you're kind of looking at things from like a bigger picture, I don't think anyone would even notice that. I think it looks really good. That one, maybe when you're focusing on it right now, it kind of looks like a clown shoe, but it's not bad either. I'd probably just stick with that one. So I think that works out pretty well. Moving on to the next one here, we'll get rid of the Konami. If you hold the shift, it will just it'll make the brush stroke for you. So then I'm just holding shift and moving from area to area. All right, we'll use the generative fill and generate. Okay, we'll zoom in a little bit here. And so you can see it's kept the texture. It's kind of preserved the direction of the hair flow pretty well. This one looks even better. This one also looks really good. In fact, the first one, this probably looks kind of the worst. This looks like what you might expect if you just did a clone stamp in random areas. You'd get just kind of your random patches of color. I think some of these, like this, really preserves the flow of the direction of the hair really well. And I think I like this one the best. We'll stick with that one. And then going down to the PlayStation. Now, here on the PlayStation logo, in this case, this would also be a really easy one to just clone stamp. I wouldn't. This is something you could fix with any photo software. We'll just see what it does. You can also make this smaller if you wanted to tighten up those corners. And then once you got the corners, you can go bigger to do the bulk fill in the middle. Okay. Do generative fill. And for the most part, these are fine. You know, the color variation is a little there. You can kind of tell it's a little darker. But now that you have this layer added in here, you could then use the clone stamp tool and just kind of feather these in and make it look a lot more believable. Let's see, if I were to merge down, so that would make it permanent. You don't have to do it permanent. Photoshop does have a lot of non-destructive stuff, but you know, when you're just getting started out, that can help quite a bit. So if you just, once you zoom out, that's pretty much, it's done. But now, so everything has been removed, and this looks really good now. So we'll open up the next one here. This is the one that had the big rental sticker on it. Zoom in on just that area. So again, the clone stamp tool could do this pretty easily if you just line it up on a texture. So if we're going forward, let me get rid of that. So you see the clone stamp can do this pretty well if you line up your texture right. It'll do a really good job. Probably want to get that line just a little bit straighter. But we'll see if this generative fill can just make it easy for us. Okay, got that. Generative fill. All right, so look, I mean, look, all three of these options all look great. Probably, so this part, it seems to have got this part down really well. And if you didn't like the way some of these areas come in, you could use your clone stamp and just kind of fix a little bit. But I think, like, look at that line. That line is perfectly straight. That's very impressive. This right here, you probably want to be looking for that texture change. You can kind of see it. There's kind of a line here, and then a line there, and then this one. I would just, like, this looks really well right here. I would probably go with this one. And then you could maybe use the clone stamp and just kind of fill in, like, there's like a little bit of a ghost line right there. But all in all, like, that looks fantastic. We go here with Call of Duty. Okay, for the Call of Duty, we want to get rid of this big rating box, the ratings box. Generative Fill. Oh, looks like I forgot to highlight a little white area there. Okay. So that looks really good. And that one also looks really good. I think I kind of like that one better. We zoom down. Let's take it on and off. Yeah, I think that one looks really believable. Yeah, you know, that one is something kind of weird going on here, like a hard line. I guess that one's also a hard line, but at least it's coming off from his hand, so it kind of seems like maybe he's just got a really loose, you know, kind of like how this one's really loose on the end of his arm. That one's kind of believable. That one just looks terrible. That's not usable. But that one's pretty good. Let's see about getting rid of this Activision here. Select the original layer. That one I think looks the best. Okay, so that's what it looked like originally. Okay, so now we've got this image and it's all cleaned up. Because this is a video game cover, it's more of a rectangle shape, but albums are normally a square shape. And so if you wanted to make this a square, you know, you would end up, you'd probably pull, you know, maybe down to here, cut off that Xbox part, but then to make it a square, you gotta cut off a bunch of this area down here. And so maybe you'd like to keep this stuff. What you can do is, one of the other AI options it has is this generative expand. And what I'll do is I'll just make it okay, so we'll use this as the baseline image now. And then I'll set a ratio of 1:1. I want a square ratio. And so you see it cuts it off quite a bit, but if I expand it out, I'll hold the Alt key. And so now the generative AI, or the generative expand, is an option, and you can tell it to generate. And so now it's kind of filled out these sides over here and makes it a square, but it looks pretty natural. And you can see it even put like a pretty nice ending on his arm there. It looks pretty natural. These areas are a little void of anything, but that's not too bad. Let's see what this one. So this one has a little bit more information over here. Looks a little better. And so maybe like we'll say, okay, I like this one. I like this variation for this side, for the left side, but I like this variation for the other side. What you can do is you can select the variation that you want, that one of the ones that you want to keep, and you can hit new layer. And then with that layer selected now, you can say image, apply image, and hit OK. And so now I turn those off. So now we've got an image that it was like a capture of what we currently saw. I'll turn that off and I'll go back to to the expand, and I'll select the other variation. And then again, I will add a layer, go to image, apply image, hit OK. And so now I've got two copies of this, but I want to keep, this is the area that I'm interested in keeping. Even here, I think, I like this part better on this, this image. So that's currently layer 1 here. I like layer 1, this part up here. I just don't like it down here. And so we can see what's kind of like about below this line. If you select that layer, if your eraser button is not available by default, you can hit either the E key, or if you expand this out, it's going to be down in here somewhere. Here's the eraser tool right here. You go to Edit Toolbar. Here's the eraser tool, and you can just put it like with the remove, right above the remove. And so now here's the eraser right here. Oh, I did not hit apply. Okay, so now we got the eraser. I don't want it to be too hard. Sometimes by default, it'll often be like 100% hardness. I want it to kind of fade around on the edges. And then if we just make this a little bigger, and so there we go. So what I did was I allowed the bottom to kind of show through, and the bottom is the other layer. And so now we've got a mix of both generative fills of the expands, but it allows us to mix the variations. And so now we have like a very nice square image, a square ratio that actually looks natural. It doesn't look like you just used the clone stamp and did a bunch of pasting or stamping of some pattern to just fill it in. This is a very believable background as a cover art. For the next one, we'll do this album that's got this sticker down here. Now this one, it really struggled to make this work, and I that's totally understandable. And then we'll select this area, use the shift key. Make it a little bigger. Okay, so we want to get rid of this. We'll try the generative fill, see what it does. Okay, so these ones, you know, these are not great. There's little blurring here. This is not very believable. This one's not bad. But one of the things that maybe you have to keep in mind is that you see that as this elastic skirt she's got on, as it goes around her body, the direction of these pleats starts to change. And so as you move further out to her body, they're at a bigger angle. But here they just kind of continue because it's sampled, you know, maybe from the center of her body here. It's just kind of straight down. It doesn't go out to the side. And then of course here, this just looks completely unbelievable. But this at least kind of gets you in a direction. It's not bad. And if you don't like it, you can always hit generate again, and you can get some additional or some, you know, different examples and see if maybe it hits it right. So that one is definitely better. Now, the other option you have here is you can go to is this content aware fill, and this will this thing's pretty cool. So it will give you this green. It'll give you the things that it's looking at. The green area is the mask that it's allowed to look at in order to determine how it should fill this area that you've selected. And you can kind of go through here and say, you know, don't look at certain things. Sometimes it'll help, but for the most part, you get kind of similar results. But it does help a little bit. This is just another option that you could have with trying to get it to fill in. I think probably what we need to do is part of it is that we need to make this area a little bit bigger. We need to just make it oversized just a little bit. And let's see what that might help with that transition. So this the texture on her wool coat or wool sweaters, it's a little better here. The other thing that you can do, so once you have something up here that, you know, you're kind of generally happy with, but maybe you don't like that this is not mirroring the direction of her pleats on this side of her body, and here it's just straight down, and that's not totally believable. You could select this background layer and highlight that part of the pleats on her skirt, and then paste it and move that layer above, move it on top of the thing that the generative AI. And then, so I'm just gonna drag it. I'm gonna grab this side. I'm gonna grab this side and just move it over to the other side. And so now we do have this was part of the original, the sticker is shining through, so we'll just erase that. And so now, you know, you've got the pleats over here, and now as it gets to the middle of her body, they're kind of straightening, and then they start going the other direction. It's not great, but I think that if you were just, you're probably, when people look at this album cover there, they're going to focus on the girl's face and the words, and they're probably not going to put a lot of attention down here. And so now that it's not a distraction anymore, it's just out of the way. For this is where a sticker was, and it was removed. We'll see if it can get rid of that. Try the generative fill and just see what it looks like. Okay, in this case, this works really well. It retains the texture pretty well. There's no hard color variation, like a hard color transition on the around the area that was selected. So that, I think in this case, that works out really well. It cleans that up really good. If I got rid of the generative fill and then just use the content aware, it also has very good results. Let's see, zoom in here and see, that also looks really good. Okay. So now, I mean, now we've cleaned up this album pretty well. Go to the next one. The Sonic 3D Blast. I'd recommend just cropping out the this area outside of the scanning area so that it doesn't take any of that into consideration when you're trying to do your fill. In this case, we've got this picture looks totally fine. I guess we got a Windows logo down there as well. So we'll crop that out, try to crop that out. So we got the Windows logo here and the ratings logo, and we'd like to get rid of those because those are not applicable to a soundtrack. We go down here. Now this one is, this is still a pretty complex, even though the colors are not that complex. You've got a boulder here, you've got grass. There's transitions that are happening back here behind this label that they put on here that would be difficult to just clone stamp out. So I'm going to select the label. Just holding down the shift key and clicking. There seems to be a way that it will make it auto fill everything that's in the middle here. I just haven't figured out what it is, but it does happen to me every once in a while on accident. Okay, so let's use the generative fill and see how good it is at this. All right, that one is kind of terrible. That one's not great. That one's better. It's got a little bit of a shadow. I don't really like any of those. So we'll get some more variations. That one's not too great. Now that one looks pretty good. It's got, put a nice rounded shape on it, and it included a shadow. I think that would be extremely believable. So I'll stay with that. And then for this Windows logo, let's see how well it can do on this. Okay. All right, well, that looks really good. That, I think, maybe even looks better. Let's see. So naturally, the way it is behind this label, there's a little bit of a curve here. That one retains the curve. It's a little high, and that one's not great. This one kind of looks, maybe it's believable. It kind of maybe could also look like there's a dent in the picture. So I think I'll go with that one. I think I like that one the best. So there we go. We've that removed those labels from the image. And then here we've got some vinyl ones here. All right, so this one, like I said, this one you could fix yourself. I mean, you can see the line where the line arcs. You can see the shape. So you could just clone stamp this all out and fix it yourself. We'll go ahead and use the clone stamp or the generative fill just to see what it offers. But normally I would just do this one myself. Okay, so some of these, they look pretty terrible. That one's about the closest, but that doesn't look great. It definitely loses the path of the arc. So in that case, I wouldn't like any of those. We'll generate another one just to kind of see what it does. Sometimes, the AI, it does some remarkable things, but then it also just kind of seems to ignore what is obvious. You can see, a human can see that there is a path back there. It can tell what's going on. And a human can also look at this sticker and realize that the sticker is on top of those lines back there. And so if you want to remove the sticker, that's what you would do. So that one's not too bad. That one, that's pretty good, but it does go a little far. So it's not completely in line with the original design. That one's okay. Here's where a sticker was, and I removed it. I guess, let's see. So we'll just get rid of the generative fill. Let me delete that. And we'll just try the content aware fill and see what that gives us. I suspect it probably will be worse. Yeah. So I guess if we just get rid of all this, I don't know if this will make a difference. Yeah, this is not ideal. So we'll cancel that. Okay. The next one is just seeing if we can just get rid of this part. A clone stamp or even a paintbrush would fix this up really well. So this is not something I would normally. This is not worthy of AI replacement, but we'll see what it gives. So in that case, it cleaned that up perfectly. I got 0 issues with that. I would keep that. And then for this last one, okay, this one is kind of the worst case. When you zoom in here, you can kind of see what's going on. This black square goes up to here, and then it comes down, and then you'd be left to understand that when the top of the M goes out here, it's all black, and then once it transitions again, it goes into white, and you've got the transition line right here. Okay. Do generative fill and see what it gives us. All right, that is not good, not good. In this case, it kind of gives you a decent shape. I mean, it gives you something to work with. We'll generate one more, just see what it does. It's got a word somehow. So what I would do here is it's not doing it great. It's not a great solution, but there are aspects of each of these that I like. And so what I would do, it would take some time, but I'd probably save a couple of these layers, and then I would kind of feather them all together, kind of graft them all into one, and then use the clone stamp to replicate some of these textures, and maybe take this arc or this end of the M and select it and copy and paste it up here and kind of turn it upside down so that it now becomes the top of the M, and then drag this square out to be bigger. And then you could actually fill in this shape. I think this tool can provide you with enough content to get you going in the right direction, and then it can give you something that will work. So in general, I'm pretty impressed with this. I think that this tool, especially just kind of starting out, it hasn't been around that long. It already gives some really good results. Maybe like in 5 years, this video will be totally irrelevant because this capability of the generative AI is just incredible, and it can actually look at the content and really understand, like in the case of a sticker, it can kind of see the faint design that's behind the sticker and understand what it's trying to do. So I'm impressed. Like I said, I don't know if it's necessarily worth $15 a month or $20 a month compared to just buying Affinity Photo for one time, and then having most of all of the other capabilities available to you, minus this one really powerful ability. But if you do a lot of artwork editing and stuff, then it might be worth it to you. So anyways, I hope this was helpful in helping you make a decision and understanding what the capabilities of this AI fill is capable of, and will help you make decisions about what kind of software and how much money you're willing to spend on this hobby. See you later.